Okay, so in this session, we are going to introduce Power Query in Excel. So, Power Query in Excel is the transformation engine for cleaning up any data, for transforming data into the shape that you actually intended. So, to introduce Power Query, we are going to start with this first file, which is intro to Power Query, and I'm going to double click that to open the Excel file. Okay, so it's opening, and we've got our files opened. I'm enabling, so you have to enable um, editing. So this is our file, and so we've got a training courses sheet, and we've got 3 columns in this table. And so the 3 columns are cost and code, cost code and description, category, and length. And so we are going to import this into Power Query. So Power Query, before now, Power Query first appeared in Microsoft Excel in 2010. So it was available as an add-in. So you have to go to options, you have to go to Excel, options, and you say add-ins. Where are you? So add-in. So when you click add-in, you then see, you then click here, manage Excel add-ins, and you click go. That's when you can actually see Power Query. So it was in 2010 and 2013 was introduced as an add-in to Excel, but from 2016 onwards up to now, it's embedded in the data ribbon. So in the data ribbon, you see the Power Query known as get and transform data. So get and transform data is the group that actually embed Power Query into our native Excel. So from 2016, 2019, 2021, you now have Power Query in Excel. And so this data, we are going to move it into Power Query now. But before we move into Power Query, best practice is that your table needs to be converted to a table in Excel. So currently this is not a table in Excel, this is just a range in Excel. So for you to convert a range to a table in Excel, you need to go to the Insert ribbon and click Table. And the shortcut for that is Ctrl T. So while your cursor is inside the range, you press Ctrl T, you see that Excel is smart enough to get the segment for the table. When you scroll down, you see that Excel is actually smart to get the length and breadth of your table. And so here we've got where is the data for your table. It gets the cell address correctly, and that's what is dangling around the data. Then we've got my table has header here, so this needs to be ticked because our table has headers. So I click OK, and so here you have your table, your range converted into a table before exporting to Power Query. Also, you can change the table styles. Click the drop down, can change the table styles to this. Even when I use the non-table style, you see that this is still a table. How do we confirm that this is a table? When you have a table in Excel, you have an additional ribbon called the table tools. An additional ribbon appears. So if I undo my step, the apply steps, Ctrl Z, you where we had a range, you notice that there is no table tool ribbon at all here. So when you convert a range to a table, you will have an additional ribbon called the table tools. So, but then I want to move this table the way it is as a range into Power Query. So I move to the data ribbon, and here I've got from table or range. So you can create a new query linked to the selected Excel table or named range. If the selected table don't isn't part of a table or named range, it will be converted into a table. So this is a range, but while importing it to Power Query, it will be automatically converted into a table. Meanwhile, Power Query has several sources that you can pull data from. You can pull data from files, so you can pull data from databases, SQL, Access, Oracle. You can pull data from MySQL. You can pull data from all of these databases. You can pull data from Azure. You can pull data from online services. So these are various ways that you can actually pull data into Power Query. From other sources, you can see from table or range, you can see from web, from Microsoft Query, from several sources, combined queries as well. So you can see all the ways you can connect your data to Power Query. So, but here we have to use from table or range. So I click that, and you can see that Power Query is converting this range into a table, which is what we would have done in the first place. So I'll say OK, and so it's processing to import it into Power Query. So Power Query is loading, and Power Query is coming up. So this is Power Query. So the same data we've got in Excel is what we have here in Power Query. So Power Query is just like Excel that has columns and rows, or rows and columns. So we've got rows and columns. The difference is just that Power Query works with columns. It works column, column, column. It doesn't work by row. It doesn't work by row, so you can see it works by column. All right. So we've got our table here. So in Power Query, this is where you can do several transformations. You can reshape your data that it will be suitable for analysis. So here, one thing that you need to do first when you get to Power Query is to notice that tables in Excel are queries when they get to Power Query. So you need to give your queries a nice name. Table 3 is not a nice name, and the name you give to your table should be descriptive of the data of the columns inside your table. So we can double click this to name our table or our query, or we'll go to this far right and click inside and edit the name under the property, and I call this cost list. So I type that in and I hit enter. So that name is changed as well here as I change it here. Even when I change here, it will also change here. So we also got apply steps area. So this is where whatever clean up I do, whatever transformation I do to this data is recorded. The steps are recorded here, just like macros in Excel. So that list all the steps taken. So here you can see that one step has been taken automatically by Power Query, which is change data, and this is what Power Query usually do. It will automatically carry out the change data process for you. So I like to remove that so that it will be those steps that I take that the apply steps will record. Okay, so data source, this is where I put data from. This is the step I've taken, and I've changed the name of the query. So, and the next thing I'll do is to clean up. So you can see this first column, it has two different data inside one column. So I need to separate this, into cost code and cost description, so that we'll have two columns from this single column, and our table will then be having four columns. So this is the first step to clean up this data. So I'm going to right click on the column and click split column. So you can see split column has all of these additional splitting criteria. You can see split from non-digit to digit, from digit to non-digit, from uppercase to lowercase, from lowercase to uppercase. You can see all of these. So if we have data that has also this, you can split by number of characters, so we can see that this number of the cost code is just 5 digits number of characters. It has 5 characters, so we can use this to split, or we go by delimiter. So delimiter, it's either spaces, semicolon, commas, those are delimiter that are actually separating the component of that column. All right, so this is one way to get to split column. Another way is to look at the ribbon and you see split columns. So it has the same criteria for splitting columns. So I'm going to go by this and use split by delimiter. And so split by delimiter brought this, and Power Query was able to automatically detect that the delimiter here is a space, even though you've got several delimiter, column, commas, equal signs, semicolon, tabs, and you can also specify a custom delimiter where you've got a space to specify what is what we are going to use to separate the data in that column. But for this, Power Query got it correctly by saying it's a space, and here you can split the column by each occurrence of the delimiter, which is a space. So we've got a space here, we've got a space here. So if we use this third one, we are going to have 3 columns from this single column, so which is not what we want. We just want to separate the code from the description. So I'm going to use the leftmost delimiter. So the leftmost delimiter will look at to the left, the space that we have to the left and the left. If you use the rightmost, it means it's going to use this space to the right to separate the column, and that is not what we want. What we want is the leftmost delimiter, and I click OK. So with this, splitted the column into 2. Then you can you can edit the name by double clicking the header, and we've got cost code here. Double click the name and edit this to be cost description and hit enter. So we've splitted this column. We've got 2 columns now. Now Power Query has helped us to do a change data type again. So I'm going to move this renamed column, which is the step I carried out. I'm going to drag it up, and come to this last one, and I'll delete that step. So we've got this. These are the steps I've taken. I splitted the column and I renamed the column. All right. So I haven't gotten to this extent. I can as well, before renaming, I can do all the split columns that I want, because I can as well split this column into the number and the day. In fact, the days are just the same all through, so I can put the day in the header name and just have numbers here. So I can remove the step for renaming the column and come back here and right click, split column by delimiter, and I say it's a space. Even if I do at each occurrence, because I just have just one single space, I'm fine with that. So it splits the column into two, so it automatically did change type again. I remove it. So I have done split column first and split column again, and so it's doing this. Now I need to edit the header and write length in brackets date. So, and I hit enter. Then for this, since it's the same all through, if you click the drop down, you see that it's just the that's the unique number, the unique text there. I'm going to remove, right click and click remove. So I remove that column. So the columns I have are this, and my steps: split column twice, rename the column, and remove the column. So also I still need to do some renaming of columns, so I can remove this and rename, apply all the renaming of column. I double click this, and I need to edit this for course code, hit enter. I also edit this and I hit course description, and I hit enter. And so that's all for the renaming. So I've renamed in one step. Then I come back to this and remove this last column. So we've got this removed. All right. So then the next step is to change the data type. So these, I can leave it as a text, even though you have got numbers, because they are codes. So I can leave it as a text. Why this as text as well? This needs to be as text. So you click this edge of the header, and you can have this several data type. And here as well, I need to change it to whole number so that I've got this. So you can see that we've got our data cleaned up, and now I can go back to home and click the drop down. You've got close and load, and you also have close and load too. So I choose this. So I've got several options to actually load the data back to Excel. This is our raw data. So select how you want it, how you want to view this data. So we've got several ways, but we are going to go with the default, which is table. You can as well create connections without loading data into Excel. You can just create a connection for use. You can create a pivot chart from it, pivot table from it, but we want it to be as a table. And you can put it in this existing worksheet, maybe beside the raw data, and but we are going to go for the default, which is new worksheet. You can as well add this to a data model, but we'll talk about that later. So okay, I click OK, and so it will open a new worksheet and pull the data, the cleaned up data, into a new worksheet. This is the raw data. It's a 3-column table. This is the exported data from Power Query, which is having 4 columns. Okay, so we can as well, you can see a blank here. And that's because in our raw data we've got that as a blank. So I can decide to update this data and put Adobe as the category, and I come back to my course list, and the only thing I need to do is to right click and hit refresh, and the data updates. That is the Power Query. So that's that. And we've got some other things that we can do in Power Query, which we will see in subsequent video. So thank you.